My name is Mandy Zito, and I work at Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation as the Young Survivor Coordinator, and this is my husband, Howie Brown. Our diagnosis story started in 2008, October 2008. Howie was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and we were shocked. We were like anybody else. He was only 34 years old, and our family was, we just didn't even know what to do. And then he got through his surgery. He didn't have to have any chemo, radiation. And then 8 weeks later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at just 33 years old. The feeling originally, when we were sitting in the doctor's office with his diagnosis, I could see that he had left. He was not even in his body at the time. And so I had to go into this mode, sitting in the doctor's office, of asking question after question. I was just rifling questions at the doctor. I didn't even know really the questions I was asking, but I just kept asking question after question after question because I knew he wasn't even capable of asking. Because when you hear that diagnosis, you no longer are in your body. It becomes this out-of-body experience.
I remember where I was sitting. It was just like this. I was on this side and I was just looking out the window and he's saying it, and I'm just like, you could see people going through their normal daily activities and you're like, what is going on right now? And it was, yeah, that's exactly what it's like. It's like you're outside looking in at someone else being told the situation. And like she said, I wasn't even that. I was gone. It's almost like it never happened to me at this point. You know what I mean? I never had treatment. I had surgery. It was one day. I was out. You know what I mean? I was home that night. So then 8 weeks later, when it happened to her, it was a completely different ballgame. This was chemo, radiation, everything else on top of that. So I feel like it never even happened to me. I really, really do. He
had the day off, and we thought, let's, go together. It's probably going to be nothing anyway, So we go, and the doctor came in, and I specifically remember her coming in and saying, "It's something." And I said, "What something?" And she said, it's cancer. And I specifically remember saying, "But I'm only 33. And I said, and I looked at him because he was sitting in the chair, and I said, and we just got the news about him. And she said, "I know." She, because she knew, because our first appointment, I had told her. And, she held my hand and said, "Okay, this is probably, the road that you're going to have to go down. It's surgery, it's chemo, it's radiation. And, hitting you with all that, it's not really even processing."
The foundation began, well, actually my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer about 12 years ago in 2001. And that was the first experience that we had as a family with cancer in general. It was very traumatic. So my mom had wonderful care through the process, but every day was an emotional struggle for the family, and we noticed the lack of service not in medical care, but in personal stuff that we were dealing with. We supported each other. We're a family of 9, but it became really difficult. Every day was a battle. There was one of us, at least 1 or 2 or 3 struggling. So the foundation came about to fill that void.
The Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation is really dedicated at wrapping our arms around the women and men that have had breast cancer in Greater Rhode Island.
And that's what it does. It takes the holistic approach to fill in some of the missing from the medical community, which is really about mind, body, spirit, supporting family, supporting that patient when they're diagnosed, and supporting that survivor after treatment.
Everything that we do at Gloria Gemma is free for survivors and for those going through treatment.
My name is Erin Kunin-Schmidt, and I'm working with the Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Resource Foundation, teaching yoga to breast cancer survivors under 40. I had very little experience with yoga before my diagnosis. I was more into cardio and lifting weights, but did exercise, so it was one of the factors that I thought I had going for me. I was diagnosed at 27, and about 2 years after that, just being exhausted from chemo, radiation, treatment in general, and my surgeries, just couldn't maintain the physical activity that I had done before. So a friend suggested trying yoga. because of the breathing techniques to calm and quiet the mind, and just general ease on my body since I was so fatigued, and I was hooked. One of the really great benefits of yoga that I found is that I was able to do the practice and kept it at my own pace, or kept it in terms of what my body could handle. And it was a really great way for me to take 75 minutes of time for myself and to quiet my mind, even out my breath. And they really are related. If your breathing is calm, then your mind will be calm, and it calms down your body. So it's a health benefit on a lot of levels, from the physical side of stretching and practicing and getting your muscles back and working out the surgery site, to a mental side where you do something for yourself as opposed to taking care of work, home, school, everything else you have in your life. So for that time, you can go inside and you can focus on the positions and the postures and the breathing and let your mind take a break. I found the lump in August of '08. Really didn't think too much of it. It doesn't run in my family. I'm really not a picture of a cancer patient, but not sure who is. So it doesn't run in my family. It was August of 2008. I found the lump, told my doctor. She referred me for an ultrasound. Came back, they weren't really sure what it was. They referred me to Women and Infants in Providence. And they said, you can either have it out or have a biopsy. And I elected for surgery, but I was getting married and I wanted to wait till after my wedding, being a bride. So 3 weeks after I got married, I had the surgery and it came back malignant. So within, 21 days of saying my vows, I was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. It was a challenge. I mean, you're just starting to redefine your role from fiance to wife and husband, and all of a sudden these, problems that you wouldn't expect to surface for years and years down the road come up, and everything from cancer diagnosis to potential infertility to, how are we going to pay our medical bills? I mean, there was a lot that we were dealing with in our late 20s that our other friends were getting a honeymoon, and that first year of marriage, that was really exciting, and we've put a lot on hold, and we've had a lot of changes, some good, some bad, but just in our own relationship, that the vows take on a different meaning when you actually do have that, for better or for worse, when sickness and in health situation.
I never said why me. I always kind of thought, like, why not me? My mom had breast cancer, and her aunt had breast cancer, so I almost, thought, okay, this is probably going to happen, but I never knew at 33 this would happen. But I never said why me, and I think it's because it's something that I changed my life, and for the better. It brought me in a whole different direction. So, why not me is because I'm gonna, help people, and I'm gonna go and do this, and I'm gonna move on with this.
One of the hardest things I actually had was I couldn't look at my wedding pictures for a really long time. They really represented the last before moment. There wasn't a birthday, there wasn't a holiday, there was my wedding, and hundreds of pictures showing the happiest day of our life, and with all our family and friends. And I saw people who wanted to talk about my wedding because they had no idea and just couldn't believe, no, I saw you 3 weeks ago. You got married. And I said, I also have cancer. And no one knew about the lump before the wedding either. I didn't really talk about it because it wasn't anything.
I never felt that despair. You felt really bad at times during, chemo, during radiation. You felt exhausted, you were tired. At times I felt like my limbs were replaced with bricks. At one point I remember, you had to carry me into bed because I couldn't even walk from, the couch to the bedroom. Or, showering, things like that. Just sitting in the shower because I couldn't stand, and him just, sitting on the side of the tub because I couldn't do it. That was just the exhaustion, but I never felt like despair and why is this happening to me?
My name is Joy Feldman. I'm an author, nutritional consultant. I lecture nationally on health and nutrition, and I also visit lots of schools across the country teaching children there what they eat. At Gloria Gemma, I run a 6-month lecture series helping empower women to learn to eat optimally and improve their health. So about 20 years ago, I was working in a law firm and I got pregnant with my first child, and after I delivered, I was very sick. It started out with fatigue, and before I knew it, all the joints in my body were inflamed to the point where I couldn't walk. I literally would crawl from my bedroom to my son's room just to get him out of the crib. I would use the crib as a pole to get myself up. I sometimes had days I couldn't even get the Velcro off of his diapers. It was so painful. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Which kind I had, nobody was quite certain, whether it was lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. I didn't fit into any category neatly. I was medicated for months and I was getting weaker and weaker until we moved to Arizona, where I met a doctor out there who doesn't practice medicine. He just does nutrition. He's an MD, and he clipped a sample of my hair, sent it off to the lab, and I figured I had nothing to lose at that point. I would have tried anything to get well. And he changed my diet, gave me supplements, we did a whole lifestyle change, and within, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks, my blood work normalized. And I'll never forget the day the rheumatologist looked at me. He goes, "Joy, whatever you're doing, go do it. It's working." Now, I certainly wasn't perfect in that short period of time, but I would say by the time we left Arizona at the end of the year, I was back to myself. So that was the impetus for me to change my career. And that's why I really connect with these women at Gemma. Even though I didn't have cancer, I had an illness that was quite scary. And it really motivated me to change how I live my life. So I understand the fear and anxiety that anybody has when they have an illness. It does really shake your world.
When I was diagnosed, I was definitely stagnant in my job. And I knew that there was something more that I wanted to do, but I don't think I ever had the drive to do it. I never thought, I just was kind of, like many other people, didn't like, wasn't happy where I was in my job. And so once I was diagnosed, it didn't just clearly come to me like a light. It just, as I was kind of going through treatment, I didn't miss the job. I missed my coworkers. I missed that kind of, friendship and relationships I had, but I didn't miss that daily job. And I thought, well, that's really odd, that you're not missing something. So as I, went through treatment, as I'm sitting in those chairs, like he said, you sit there for a long time, it's, 4, 5, 6 hours. And there was, a 50-year-old woman, a 60-year-old woman, a 70-year-old woman, and they were wonderful to talk to, but it wasn't something that I was connecting with. And until the social worker at Women and Infants connected me with Erin.
I was being treated at Women and Infants, and I was really having a hard time because there wasn't anyone that I felt that I could connect to. I mean, my friends are wonderful, my family was wonderful, but I wanted a friend that knew where I had been and what I was going through. And the social worker there, this wonderful woman named Deb, introduced Mandy and I. And despite the fact that we had this very similar survivorship, we really connected on a base level of being friends. And we got to know each other personally, knowing her husband and mine and our dogs, and what we like to do outside of cancer, and not talking about anything pink. It was nice to know someone maybe that didn't know me before and that knew me now. So if I had changed, she didn't have any preconceived notion on who I was before my diagnosis, because she knew my changed mentality and who I was and who I am moving forward. So it's been awesome just having her as a friend and a confidant, and just being able to say, "Oh, this is happening with you. Yeah, it's happening with me too," and kind of sharing health tidbits and everything in between, and just grabbing lunch or grabbing ice cream, which I'm a really big fan of.
Erin, at the time, we were the only 2 young women that Women and Infants had, so they just said, here's her email, here's her telephone number, give her a call. So that's how I met Erin, and we just, met at a Panera one day. And, we were the women that, didn't have hair. That's how we found each other, in the middle of Panera. And after I thought about it, I thought, that's something that I want to meet more women. I want to, find those women.
When my mother was going through treatment, we knew she had the best of care, but we felt helpless. We felt like we didn't know what to do to help her. So we tried to make her laugh and do the things that she enjoyed doing and make her comfortable and buy her flowers and simple things, but they made us get through the day, and they made her get through the day, and they made the day more enjoyable. And the gift that my mom, and I tell everyone this, the gift that my mom gave to me was to enjoy every day and to appreciate and celebrate every day. And that's first and foremost in my mind when I'm here working in the foundation. Every day is a gift, that's all we have, and we celebrate every day. So when we're working with families, when we're working with new patients, when we're working with survivors, we're looking at doing the same thing. How can we make them laugh? How can we educate them at the same time? How can we provide service and comfort? And lots of times it is that massage, or it's reflexology. It's also support, it's education, it's creating a comfort where they can come and share their story.
You learn after breast cancer, you learn how to eat totally differently. Tonight, we're going to learn how to eat healthy, how to incorporate new grains and organic foods in our new diets. So you definitely learn to eat totally different after having breast cancer.
Women who are in treatment, what I'd recommend is their diet actually needs to be a little bit different than those women who don't have cancer. Once you have cancer, the body gets weakened and the ability to break down foods becomes more difficult. And their lifestyle needs to be changed dramatically. A tremendous amount of sleep and rest, a tremendous amount of reduction of stress in their lives, everything to support and nurture the body.
As a matter of fact, I was given a book at chemo on how to eat when you have cancer or you're going through chemo. So I had to relearn how to eat because I was having a bad side effect to certain foods when I was on chemo. So what I did notice is I had to keep changing my diet. Now that I'm finally sort of off of chemo, more on the lighter side of chemo, I've readjusted my diet, and I'm still readjusting my diet.
So optimizing your intake of vegetables and very minimal proteins when you have cancer will give the body enough minerals to help the body rebuild. It's minerals that are the spark plug, I'd say, for the enzymatic reactions that take place in the body to produce what we call ATP, the high energy molecules. So it's crucial for women who have had cancer and they've gone through radiation or chemo or multiple operations to build the body. And it's protein, very little for them, and lots of vegetables that will help rebuild it as quickly as possible. Additionally, when you have a tremendous amount of stress, it wears the body out and it depletes the body nutritionally. So for those women who are cancer survivors, they really need to make a radical change in how they're living their lives.
You become more aware of your diet after you're diagnosed and when you're going through treatment, because there are certain things that you can eat, certain things you can't eat, what causes a mouth sore, so you are so aware of what's going into your body. And it sounds odd because even though you're getting chemo and essentially, getting this drug that's poisoning you, you still want to eat as healthy as you can. So even after treatment, it becomes almost a lifestyle. Well, it was good for me then, so I'm gonna, stick to it. So, the grains you're getting, how much fiber you're taking in, all the vegetables that you're eating, the fruit that, you're kind of cutting out. Some people start cutting out red meat, or, we stop going to fast food restaurants, and, you just become more aware of what's going in your body.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming. Never mind hearing all this medical terminology coming at you. You're not a doctor. And you're sitting there not only trying to absorb this diagnosis, but now you have these words coming at you and you realize this is a whole lifestyle change. You're looking for nutritional value. You're looking for where the vitamin's going to come from. I'm not gonna lie, you still eat cake, you still eat chocolate, you still have those things. We're women, we need that. So I'm not gonna lie, but you know, it's a struggle because you're trying to balance trying to feel good, and you don't feel good from treatment. You're taking this medication so you don't get sick, and now you're trying to eat food that you really don't feel like eating. One of the things too, when you're going through treatment, food doesn't taste the same. So then all of a sudden, not only are you trying to eat better, but the food that you love, that makes you feel comfortable, might taste like metal, or it might taste like dirt, or it just doesn't have any taste. So there's no, what's the point of eating?
So after I had my chemo, after I had my radiation, I went back to my job. And it was just something, a routine that I knew how to do. It was something that I was used to doing. And it was a full year from when I went back to work till when I left to go back to school. During that year, I knew there was something missing. I knew that I wanted more. I wanted to push myself. And, you know, I always say I'm a little bit of a late bloomer. You know, most people do that at, 22. I was doing it at 33, but it's okay. Everybody does their own thing in their own time. But so I, told my work, and they were very understanding, that I wanted to leave and go back to school full time. And that's what I did for 2 years. I went back to school with, at URI with all the 18 to 22-year-olds. During my senior year, I had to find an internship in the community. So I called Gloria Gemma. Actually, a friend recommended Gloria Gemma and said, how about you call them? It's something that you think you might want to do. So I called and met with Carol and Maria and set up the internship for last fall, the winter semester. And I started working there and writing a proposal for a young women's group, and handed it in, and they loved it and adapted it. And I finished my internship in May and started full-time there in September.
I'm glad that I've met all these beautiful ladies, because as of now, I feel they're like my soul friends, and they all understand. So I'm glad that I did go to the meetings. I'm glad that I did meet them, because I wouldn't have met these ladies if I didn't have cancer. So I'm grateful for all of you and great support. I love you all.
I think when I first was diagnosed and I said I'm not joining a support group, it was that idea of sitting around a table and listening to people tell their sad stories. And it just felt very sad. It felt very, as much as these women were there to talk about what was going on in their life and share, we wanted an experience where we were survivors and we wanted to live as survivors.
This has been a definite experience. I really enjoy our laughs and our celebrations that we go through. Our text messages, my struggles, and when I cry, when something's going wrong. They've always known to just be there to lend a shoulder and let me know that what I'm going through is absolutely, totally normal. So I thank you, ladies.
And one of the things that I found were the women that I was meeting, they were much older than me, and you wouldn't think it would be a big differentiation, but they had their careers already. They already had their children. Some had grandchildren. Just as a 27-year-old would be different from a 60-year-old, it really made a difference in what the issues were that I wanted to talk about or the things that I wanted to do.
These women are incredible. To feel and get to know them, be a part of this is just, I don't even know if I can put it into words. I have this bond, this sisterhood with them, that they understand what I go through on a daily basis.
And so when Mandy and I met, we would meet for lunch or we would meet for coffee, and I learned about her husband. She learned about mine. We talked about our dogs. I mean, it was a really nice non-cancer friendship, as just because we met through being breast cancer survivors. It wasn't that was all we had to talk about, and it's lasted for 4 years. And so I think meeting these other women under 40 and learning that some of them really like to do makeup, or they like fashion, or my sharing is through yoga, and that's been wonderful too, is having them come to my class and give me the chance to teach them. I found that to be so wonderful, that they put their faith and trust in me to lead them through an hour-long practice every week. It's really intimidating to have that level of responsibility, and it's humbling that they let me in that way. So I think to meet these women and to talk about things other than cancer, but to know that they've been where I've been, it's really reassuring. And just knowing that that group, it's a supportive group, I guess, as opposed to a traditional support group.
Going from having cancer and looking for that support to being able to provide the support actually like fuels my soul. And I say that to our executive director, you know, if I'm talking to the women and, you know, we're planning something and doing something, it really just gives me energy. Our other coworkers at the foundation, they realize, they say, our group is extremely close, and it's not a close that, you know, you're going to get anywhere else.
But the pictures, I have now one picture up in my house. It's small. It kind of represents a little moment of bliss and maybe a little bit of naive mentality. I'm grateful I didn't have it out before my wedding, because I think that I got to have the day that there was no dark cloud over my day. But it certainly made for a challenging first year of marriage. I mean, we went through IVF, chemo, radiation, I think before some people even open a joint checking account. And our role and responsibility to each other, not that it wasn't serious before, but it became a very quick transition to understanding what it meant to be a husband and what it meant to be a wife. And it wasn't easy, but we're still together 4 years later, and 4 years cancer-free. So both anniversaries coincide with each other, and they're both really great reasons to celebrate.